Why had Narayani come to earth? So I'm going to read a little bit, the last day of Sita's life, when she departs this earthly realm. This story is told by her close attendant, Soma, who was with her in Mithila, came with her to Ayodhya, was able to telepathically know what was going on when she was in the forest, when she was in Lanka. And after Sita and Ram pass away, she remains and she tells the story of Sita. So this is Soma telling the story to sadhus who come and ask her. She's very old now, but she tells the story. And she's telling the story of that last day. So the last night, the Devas and Devis gather around Sita to celebrate the completion of her work and her return to the celestial world. It's a grand event with an unearthly appearance as the Devis and Devis gather. And Soma says she witnessed all this, Soma, but she wakes up and thinks it was a dream. Eventually, I drifted to sleep and awoke only when I heard the early bird song. Everyone was gone except Mata, she calls Sita Mata, and Sri Ram, dressed in their ascetic clothing. They were seated in the garden. He was in meditation, and she was resting beside him with her head upon his lap. There was no sign of anyone else, no sign of what had taken place the night before. I wondered if it had been a dream, a most beautiful dream. But a short time later, when Mata awoke, she told me that she was glad I had witnessed the event of the previous night. Last night was a great blessing for all of Earth's creatures and for Vasundharama. To have so many great ones gathered together in one place is most rare. It was Ram's gift to the world, she said. It was an expression of his love for you, I added. Is there any distinction between me and the world, she asked with a smile. I didn't understand her comment, but responded, of course not, Mata. Mata hardly spoke that morning. Her consciousness was interiorized, inward-looking. She asked to spend some time with the children alone at a cottage, so I brought them to her. An hour passed, and they remained inside. Sri Ram emerged from meditation and asked after her. I told him she was with the children inside her cottage. He entered and remained there for some time. Finally, Sri Ram and Mata emerged and said they were going into the forest for meditation. Before leaving, she looked over at Hanuman and me. We were standing just outside the cottage. Suddenly, she drew me to her and held me tight. I thought I heard her sigh. When she released me, she placed her hand on Hanuman's hand and gave it a slight squeeze. And then she and Sri Ram began to walk down the path, his arm around her. I thought to follow them with a pitcher of water and a basket of fruit, as I usually do. Stay with Luv and Kush, Mata instructed as she turned to face me. They will need you. Then she continued walking. When Hanuman heard these words, he emitted a cry, Mata! It was then that I realized what was happening. In panic, my mind cried out, You are leaving this world, aren't you, Mata? As this thought entered my mind, she paused. With such a loving look, she turned around and replied, How can I leave this world, Soma, when I am this world? You, of all people, should know that. Clinging to Sri Ram's arm, she then continued down the path that led to the forest. Hanuman started to follow them. Mata again turned around and said to him quietly, You must stay, Putra. Look after Soma and the children. Tears were rolling down his cheeks. I heard him whisper, Mata. She approached him and wiped his tears and gazed at him lovingly until she saw a smile cross his face. She said with a gentle voice, This is a time for joy, not for tears. Then grasping Sri Ram's arm once more, she disappeared into the forest. Hours passed. The children had gone to the hermitage for their classes. I tried to busy myself with various chores in the kitchen, but finally I could stand it no longer. I had to go to her. Under the pretext of bringing them nourishment, I filled the jug with water and a basket of fruit and headed into the forest. Hanuman was seated by the gate, waiting for both or one of them to return. I knew where they would be, as there was a spot on a large boulder in a clearing where they liked to meditate. This is where they always went for meditation, Sri Ram and Mata. So I went with the food and water. I found them meditating. One of Sri Ram's hands was resting on top of Mata's. That was how close they sat. As I lay down the basket and jug, Mata briefly opened her eyes. "Thank you, Soma," she said with such kindness. "Thank you for everything you have done." Then she closed her eyes again. I couldn't say a word and simply retreated back into the forest path. But something made me turn. I felt a great pull coming from her, so I spun around just in time to witness Mata's absorption into the world. First, I saw a great light emanate from her body. It encompassed Sri Ram and then spread out from the two of them. This emanation divided into many points of light, spreading out in every direction, like a rain of light filling the sky, pouring onto the earth, blanketing the forest. Everywhere I looked, these points of light streamed over the earth and sky. It was a most beautiful sight and stayed for quite a while. Rivers of light poured from the spot where her body had been. As I followed the streams of light, I saw it break into a multitude of colors, a rainbow of light. When the light finally faded, I saw that her form was no longer there. It had become one with the earth, with the sky, with everything. I had been fixed to the spot, witnessing this amazing occurrence. But when the light cleared and I saw that her body was no more, I was filled with despair and ran back to the cottage. I told Hanuman and Lakshman, who had also come the night before, what had happened. Hanuman tried to calm me down, but Lakshman ran to where Sri Ram was seated. Sri Ram and Lakshman didn't return until the next morning. When I finally saw the two of them emerge from the forest, I ran to them. At first, I thought Sri Ram was Mata, as he seemed to wear her appearance, or so my mind tricked me. But as I got closer and saw that it was him, and Mata was nowhere in sight, I fell at his feet and began to cry. Mata is gone. She's gone from us. Lifting me, Sri Ram looked into my eyes with such calmness, with that steadiness for which he is known, and replied so sweetly, "She is only gone if you think her gone. Soma, do not let your mind deceive you. If she were gone, this world would cease to be." Soma continues. The years followed one after another, and a time came when I began to miss Mata terribly. All the years during the exile I had never felt her absence, but this was different. One day the sorrow became overwhelming, and I fell into the ground, calling out to Vasundarama, "Why have you taken my Mata? Why could I not follow her?" Just then I heard footsteps, and I felt two arms gently lifting me up. I heard his voice, that sweet and caring voice. Why these tears, Soma? I found myself looking into the calm and steady eyes of Sri Ram. "Prabhu, the only purpose of my life was to serve her. Now that she is gone." "Gone?" he exclaimed. "Have you forgotten her words to you that day? But why, Prabhu, can I not see her, feel her presence if she is here?" Sometimes we humans cannot see what is right in front of us. Look, Soma, and see her step out of the sunlight. See her beautiful form arise from the earth. Look, Soma, open your eyes. He gently tapped me on the forehead, and indeed, I saw her smiling at me, stepping out from between the streams of sunlight, emerging from the earth and swaying in the gentle breeze. She was everywhere. That was Sita. That is Sita.